Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakudash. The belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. Akim to Sadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled, A Woman Should Want to Submit to a Man. Okay? A woman should want to submit to her man. Specifically, that man being her father and then her husband. Okay? And I'm doing this lesson because we're in a society where this notion is frowned upon. You know, the idea that a woman should submit to a man, because it's, in Western society, women have been recently conditioned to say, I am equal to a man. If not, I am superior to a man. Therefore, I should not submit to a man. And if I'm going to submit to a man, he has to be met by my particular standards, which women standards have become extremely inflated. And this approach has been detrimental to long-term relationships that lead to marriages, that lead to families, and these sorts of things. It hasn't been productive. And this is what happens when you deviate from the scriptures. That's confusion. A lot of the confusion in the world is just simply because we're stemming away from the instruction manual of life and how to govern the earth and how to govern our lives, which is the Bible. But this was prophesied. The scriptures speak about surely turning of things upside down. Who has turned things upside down? So-called white man, fulfilling prophecy. It also says that I'll put a new thing in the earth, wherein a woman shall compass a man. So this society that we see, as bugged out and crazy as it is, guess what? It was ordained to be this way. You know, the Most High said these things would happen. You know, our woman being completely out of order, and that makes us look bad. I'm talking about the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You know, it starts with the so-called black woman all the way down to the Latina woman and so forth. And it's a reflection of the state that we're in. If you could look at the so-called Japanese woman, the so-called East Indian woman, the so-called Arabian woman, they're not on some sort of social media twerking their ass. And if they are, they're mimicking who? The nigga woman. They're mimicking the tribes. All right? This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 22. It says, wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord. Right. See, that's a big misconception. Even amongst the so-called Christian women and these women that have the Bible, they'll say things like, God is my husband, or, you know, God first. Really, it should be your husband first. Your righteousness doesn't really stem from serving the Most High. Your righteousness stems from serving your man, right? Why? Because the scriptures tell us that obedience is better than sacrifice. And the Lord is telling us that there's an order how I want things to be done. And that order is, my son is below me, then you have the man, then you have the woman, okay? So as on to the Lord, like the same way we strive as men to try to please Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and is counted for righteousness, same too for a woman who's striving to honor her husband the same way we try to honor the Lord. The Most High looks upon that and counts it a blessing. It'd be a blessing unto you, all right? The Most High is not looking for women to, master the scriptures and teach and all that. That's not... There's completely different roles, and that's another thing that the society pushes is pushing us from our particular roles in society and how the Lord wants us to be on earth. You know what I'm saying? 23, it says, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Yahushua Mashiach is the head of the church. This is called order. This is called structure. It says, and he is the savior of the body. And just look how things were done in the ancient world. One could say, well, women's sexuality was suppressed. Yeah, it was suppressed. Okay, but look at two different societies. When you suppress a man's sexuality, which is here, and you suppress a woman's sexuality. Now, thankfully, much hasn't changed in the Middle East. The Middle East is more or less the same as it's been the past 2,000, 3,000 years, right? So we could look over there and see how shit is done. And if you look over there, yes, women's sexuality is suppressed, but guess what? There's far more families. There's far more marriages. It's a lot more being contributed to a family structure over there. You know what I'm saying? And simply put, you know, when you give women the choice to choose, okay, they often are not choosing correctly. You know, a lot of these women, you know, you can see a man that's been in and out of jail and shit, and their mindset is, I'm gonna try to change him. Oh, he look good, fuck that, I like them tats, I like that level of danger, and all. Just a very irresponsible decision. Wherein a man, her father, when your father decides, when you get the approval from the father, he makes a better decision, because men know men. You see, men know men. See, men could finesse the shit out of women and tell them a bunch of sweet nothings and play the game, but another man is gonna see through it and be like, nah, that's bullshit, you know, or what have you. So this is how come when you read the scriptures, marriages were prearranged, you see? And we're going to go back to that in the kingdom. This is the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 18. And it reads, it says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord. Right, and people be like, submit, I don't want to submit, but look at this, right? LeBron James, right, is, in my opinion, and I'm going to get a lot of backlash, I believe, the greatest overall, I would say, basketball player I've seen personally. You could disagree. You know, you got MJ, you got Kobe. It's not the point. The point is this. As great as he is, or great as a lot of these athletes is, guess what? They have to report to a coach. They have to report, you know, they have to submit themselves. So men do submit to other men. But it's easier for us to do it. So this notion that it should be rebellious and difficult to submit to a man that's not accurate. It's because the society has been conditioned in years and years and years of programming, okay, to get to where we are now, wherein it's shameful amongst women to be submissive. They'll call you a pick-me. They'll degrade women that want to do the best for their husbands and their family. Even women that say, look, I want to stick through this for the kids. Women be like, fuck that, divorce that nigga and break the family up. Just completely selfish. So this is where we at now, you know. But the women that do listen, the sisters out there that do listen, you don't have to comment on the comment boards or put your input. Just keep following GMS and doing what what we're telling you to do through the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? And the Lord, that's all you have to do. You see? Now for the women that have non-believing husbands, the scriptures speak about that man could possibly be saved through your faith. Okay? So just because you're with a man and he doesn't necessarily believe the truth as much as you would want him to, you could tell him, what you about, whatever, and if he's, not having you violate any scriptures, not having you break any laws, you could deal with that person. Same two brothers that you have your wives, you can't be like super tyrannical in a sense, because we have to understand that we're in a completely different time, like we can't judge our wives based on how women were in the ancient world. Same too, we don't want the Lord to judge us how men were in the ancient world, because it's just, you gotta kind of work what you get. And I'll give an example. We don't need our wives to wrap up from head to toe and cover their eyes and shit like how they do over Afghanistan. You don't have to do all that. We're in captivity right now. Just work with what you have, as long as she's doing right by you. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do the most, if you will. We'll get that in the kingdom. Some brothers, if you got that, you got that. If you got that and there's no hell happening and shit, and you're able to cover up your woman, some brother, got multiple wives, all this type of shit. Look, that's your lot. As long as it's not conflicting with the truth, but just don't think that's something that's gonna be common. Okay, that's just gotta be patient and wait for the kingdom, man. All right, now this is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word they also made without the word be won by the conversion of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. So what the woman should be an example. All right, you see, the grandmothers of our time, I'll tell you something about my grandmother. I've never seen my grandmother wear pants. I've never seen her back talk to my grandfather. You know, I've never seen it. But that's what she was taught from before her time. So now things are completely different, and the women now are being not good examples. You know, they're not being good examples for the next generation. It's just slowly and slowly deteriorating, but it won't go on forever. You see, the Most High is not going to allow this thing to go on forever, because, man, my goodness, who knows? Look, we're in a generation now where the women are growing up on social media, getting fucking BBLs, their body done, looking for OnlyFans. They don't want to do actual careers. They want to be content creators. This shit is just, like, being more and more degenerate. Like, so imagine, you ever see a woman go crazy like Britney Spears and shit, that's been used to constant attention as a celebrity, and then they get older and that shit goes away? Imagine what's gonna happen now with these chicks that, you know, I need a fucking 500,000 followers and I need all this attention and shit. You're gonna see a bunch of women that don't want to be moms. They want to be like J-Lo's. They want to be 50 years old with their body done and still out there and shit, trying to seek attention. It's wild shit, man. This is wild shit. But this is what happens when we deviate from the scriptures, right? We don't want to listen to our fathers. We don't want to listen to our husbands. But the ironic shit is, the same woman that don't want to listen to you will go to her job and follow her boss's instructions. Now tell me, does that make fucking sense, right? This is the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 11. It says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. This notion of female pastors, and that's not in the scriptures. Scriptures tell you that the Most High said the flock of my pastors are men. You know, look, the Most High has created the woman to be subjected to her man. That's just what it is. That's what the Lord has created. And if this society is demonizing that, well, they're going against the scriptures, and we're seeing the result. The Most High knows. Who the fuck? We're men. Okay, so how are we to say, you know what, the Lord, you know, that doesn't make sense, but that's what the society is teaching people, you know, shaming those who are just saying, look, this is what the Bible says, and I'm gonna try my best to serve the Lord. It says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man. And guess what happens? The woman will get, especially the black woman, they'll get in these constant big arguments trying to usurp their husband's authority in front of their children. And a child's mind is very malleable, so they're looking at that and saying, okay, mommy told daddy fuck you, so guess what, that's okay. And what does that do to a child's mind? Does that create an orderly child, or it creates a disobedient child? You see? So these sorts of things contribute over time to degenerate behavior. It says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over a man, but to be in silence. And I'm gonna let you in on a secret, you woman out there that might come across this video listening. Guess what? Submissiveness is very attractive to men. You know, if you look at a lot of these celebrity individuals, high value men, as you would say, they have wives, but they don't have to necessarily marry the baddest bitch or whatever. Your Snoop Dogs, your different athletes, whatever. They stick with these women because they're proving themselves over a long period of time and they're able to submit themselves. And Snoop Dogg could go through a million bitches or whatever. The baddies, IG models, guess what? He's gonna always go to back to that woman that is willing to submit herself, because that's that's more rare. Baddies, so-called baddies, are not rare. A woman that's in order, trying to submit herself to her man, cares about her family, and it shows you that men have not changed. Men have not. We still think the same way. We put women in the category for short-term good time. We put women in the category, okay, this could be a serious commitment here, and a big part of that is a woman is able to submit herself, just like the Most High, man. Just like the Most High. The Most High, the Lord Yahushua, is the same way. All right, I want a servant that's willing to submit himself to me, keep my laws, statutes, and commandment, be diligent, and know his place. We have no problem with that. We get that. We strive for that. But through years and years of predictive programming and brainwashing, these women, it's just like, it's damn near hard to reverse this shit. More so in the West. See? So, according to the scriptures, a woman should want to submit to herself, to her husband. Okay? To a man. With that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rachak. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Sadakim, that do this thing in their most truth and sincerity. Shalom.